Hey guys, I am Joy and you're watching my YouTube channel Universal Joy. In this video, we'll be talking about the transportation of the carbon dioxide. So we'll be learning that, but before getting into the video, if you are new to this channel, then first of all, as usual, get yourself subscribed to our channel and also hit that bell icon below as well so that you don't miss any single video. Now, without much further ado, before the ink is dry, let us just get into the video. So in this video, we will be talking about the transportation of the carbon dioxide. Transportation of carbon dioxide. We all are aware of the source of the carbon dioxide. That means carbon dioxide is always generated from the cellular level, because if there is anyone who is to be held responsible for the generation of the carbon dioxide, then it has to be always the cell, because cell always undergoes the process for the production of the ATP, and on an attempt of producing ATP, it also produces carbon dioxide. So the cell always generates carbon dioxide. So the transportation of the carbon dioxide should be understood from the cellular level. So we'll start our journey from the cellular level. Let us just draw the cell first. Let us just think that this is the cell and this cell is going to be producing carbon dioxide. So the concentration of the carbon dioxide within the frontiers of the cell will be very high. That means if the concentration turns out to be on high, then the partial pressure existing within the frontiers of the cell will also be on high. That means the experiments have shown us that the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide within the border of the cell is approximately 46 millimeter of the mercury. And outside the cell, definitely this part indicates that it is the part of the interstitial space or interstitial medium. Now outside the border of the cell, the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide will be low, will be a slight deficient as compared to the partial pressure existing within the border of the cell. Now experiments have shown us that the partial pressure within the interstitial space, or you can say outside the border of the cell, is approximately 45 millimeter of the mercury. So due to this pressure difference by 1 millimeter of the mercury, carbon dioxide moves outward and it moves into the interstitial space. This is how the first stage, this is how the carbon dioxide moves outward from the cellular level, and this is the first step of the transportation of the carbon dioxide. Now we know this cell is definitely badly in need of the oxygen. How does it receive its oxygen? Definitely from the arterial blood. Then let us just suppose this is the arterial blood which is coming a little in contact with the cell, so that this arterial blood can supply sufficient amount of the oxygen to this particular cell. Now from this part of the vascular compartment, the cell will be receiving oxygen. Okay, and we know the arterial blood, as it is an arterial blood, or as it is the vascular compartment which is the which is going to be indicating the arterial blood. So the content of the carbon dioxide within this vascular compartment will be very much low as compared to the content remaining in the venous blood. Again, the content of, as it is going to be indicating the arterial blood, which is highly enriched in oxygen. So definitely the content of the carbon dioxide, or you can say the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide within this vascular compartment, will be very low as compared to the content and the concentration of the carbon dioxide found in the venous blood. Now when this is the one way, or this is a place where we always become confused at, because whenever we say the transportation of the carbon dioxide, we always relate the transportation of the carbon dioxide with the venous blood. But we have to think and remember it for over and over again, that first the transportation starts, the transportation of the carbon dioxide occurs from the arterial blood, because this arterial blood will be providing oxygen to the cell, and on an attempt of providing oxygen, it will also take up the carbon dioxide from the cell into the blood vessel. So this blood, which is highly enriched in the oxygen, is also poorly enriched in carbon dioxide. So experiments have shown us that the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide in the arterial blood, which is supplying oxygen to the cell, is approximately 40 millimeter of the mercury. Okay, it is approximately 40 millimeter of the mercury. So you can see and you can easily differentiate that the partial pressure that remains within the interstitial space is 45 millimeter of the mercury, and the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide in the blood vessel is approximately 40 millimeter of the mercury. So due to this pressure difference by 5 millimeter of the mercury, carbon dioxide from the interstitial space moves directly into the blood vessel, and we know in the blood vessel there is hemoglobin. Okay, let us just beg your pardon, there is RBC. Let us just suppose this is RBC, or I think I need to enlarge this picture because here a lot of events will take place. So I'm enlarging this blood vessel. enlarging the arterial blood vessel, rather I should be saying, and within this arterial blood there is the presence of RBC. This biconcave shaped structure indicates that this is an RBC, and here partial pressure of the carbon dioxide is how much? 40 millimeter of mercury. Now what really happens is that carbon dioxide, due to the pressure difference of 5 millimeter of the mercury, carbon dioxide right now has successfully been able to diffuse into the interior part of the arterial blood. Now some of the now in the blood vessel, the carbon dioxide will be moving in 3 different forms. Okay, again in the blood vessel, the carbon dioxide will be moving across the whole blood in 3 different forms. Okay, 7% of the carbon dioxide will be moving across the blood in form of dissolved state. Okay, 7% of the carbon dioxide will be transporting through the blood vessel in form of the dissolved state, and 70% of the carbon dioxide will be moving through the blood in form of bicarbonate, and 23% of carbon dioxide will be moving through the blood in form of the carbamino hemoglobin compound, or in form of carbamino plasma proteins type of the compounds. Now I'm going to be explain all these events. What do you mean by 70% bicarbonate? Actually, okay, listen to me very carefully. Carbon dioxide from the interstitial space has already moved into the interior part of the blood vessel. Now as soon as it gets into the blood vessel, 7% of the carbon dioxide will be moving through the blood vessel in form of the dissolved state. So this phenomenon should be removed because we have already dealt with this. Now this one is yet to be dealt with. Now what really happens is that carbon dioxide is very highly lipid soluble. Okay, it is not water soluble, it is lipid soluble, and the membrane of the RBC is made up of lipid, because we know the membrane of the RBC is made up of phospholipid bilayer. So this is also a lipid. This carbon dioxide over here is also lipid. So lipid loves always lipid. So lipid will be crossing, that is carbon dioxide will be crossing the membrane of the RBC, and it will directly jump within the RBC and it will come over here. Okay. Now in the RBC, definitely one of the major important products within the RBC is hemoglobin. So let us just suppose this is our hemoglobin. We know hemoglobin is a tetrameric compound which is which has got globin chain. So let us just suppose this is a globin chain. Okay, and this is the heme portion of the hemoglobin. Now what really happens is that as carbon dioxide is highly lipid soluble, so it penetrates the membrane of the RBC and enters directly into the border of the RBC, and within the RBC it binds with the H2O, which is found locally, and in combination of both this H2O and CO2, in the presence of an enzyme that's known as carbonic anhydrase enzyme, it produces carbonic acid. Okay, oh, this has become very dirty, so I should be writing it in very neat manner. Let's just suppose there is the production of H2CO3 or carbonic acid in the presence of carbonic anhydrase enzyme because of the combination of CO2 and locally found H2O. Now as soon as there is the production of H2CO3, it is yet not gratified. It will undergo auto-digestion. That means it is going to be again undergoing dissociation, and the moment it undergoes dissociation, it will be generating H plus, and also it will be generating bicarbonate ion. Again, the same catalyst will play a role in the dissociation of H2CO3, which is also known as carbonic anhydrase. Okay, now you could see that this way the level of the H plus will be enhanced gradually, because this H is held responsible for the altering of the pH. So there may be a contingency that the whole RBC might undergo denaturation, because if constantly there is a supply of this H2CO3, then constantly there will be the production of H plus, because H2CO3 always undergoes the dissociation, and due to the dissociation of H2CO3, constantly there will be the production of H plus, and this will keep on reducing the pH of RBC, and the RBC will and the RBC may undergo denaturation. So to prevent this phenomenon, what really happens is that hemoglobin acts in this place. That means hemoglobin is also a buffer type of product. We have already come across what is buffer. It is a product which always tends to prevent a marked change of the pH. So hemoglobin, in the structure of the hemoglobin, there is amino acids chain or globin chain, and in globin chain there are certain amino acids, especially histidine amino acids, which have got hook-like structure like this. For example, this is one hook, this is again another hook, and this is again another hook over here. Now these hooks are able to bind this hydrogen ion with the hemoglobin molecule. So what really happens, these hydrogen ions will be now bound with hemoglobin. Now these hydrogen ions are no longer free hydrogen ions. So they are no longer capable of changing the pH of RBC because it has already become bound to hemoglobin. So I'm going to be erasing this free hydrogen. So there is no problem with the denaturation, because what was the product which was held responsible for the changing of pH? That was H plus. Now that free H plus has right now been buffered by this hemoglobin. So there is no contingency of denaturation of the RBC. Okay, this is how hemoglobin takes up extra amount of the H plus, which is generated by the H2CO3's dissociation. Now on the other hand, you could see this bicarbonate is left out. Now what really happens is that this bicarbonate is secreted out of the RBC, because if bicarbonate remains more inside the RBC, then this bicarbonate may change the pH to the alkalinity direction. Okay, and this will again result in the denaturation of the RBC. So to prevent this phenomenon, bicarbonate is taken out. Okay, bicarbonate is again going to be taken out of the RBC, and in exchange of bicarbonate, to maintain the ionic balance, chloride from the other end, we know in the plasma we have got huge amount of the chloride. So this chloride will be taken inward. Okay, so what really happens, I'm going to be again telling you that fact. Bicarbonate is taken out and chloride from the plasma is taken inward into the RBC, and here one transporter will be playing an important role. That's called band 3 transporter. I'm not going to be going into details of the band 3 transporter. Let us just assume there's this blackish mark represents that band 3 transporter, which is held responsible for the transporting of the bicarbonate ion from the inner part of the RBC to the plasma, and chloride ion from the plasma to the RBC. Now this is how the bicarbonate plays an important role in the transportation of the whole carbon dioxide. Now I have to mention, what about this remaining 23%? I've already mentioned earlier that this remaining 23% of the carbon dioxide will be transporting through the blood in form of either carbaminohemoglobin compound or carbamino-plasma protein compound. Now what really happens is that this is a hemoglobin chain, okay, and this hemoglobin chain has got two parts. One is heme portion, other one is globin portion. Globin portion is nothing but the combination of amino acids. Now in the amino acid at the terminal end, definitely there is what? There is NH2 end, or also known as amino end. Okay, this is that amino end. Okay, now this amino end, sometimes some of the carbon dioxide enters into the RBC and they directly bind with this amino end, and after the combination with amino end, this amino end becomes almost like hydroxyl kind of group. Okay, this COO is the part of CO2. Okay, did you get me? Carbon dioxide, what really happens, sometimes carbon dioxide from the plasma enters into the RBC and directly they bind with the amino acid part of the hemoglobin, and they especially bind with the amino end of the hemoglobin, and after the binding, this amino end turns out to be N, then a bond, then it becomes COOH. Okay, and this COO represents that it is a carbon dioxide compound. Now this is called carbaminohemoglobin compound. As carbon dioxide binds with hemoglobin, so it is called carbaminohemoglobin compounds. And of course in the plasma there are some plasma proteins. If carbon dioxide directly binds with these plasma proteins, then that time it will be called as carbamino-plasma protein. So 23% of the carbon dioxide is transported through the blood either in form of carbaminohemoglobin compound or in form of carbamino-plasma protein compound. Now this is the transportation. Okay, you have to keep all these phenomena in mind, and as you have already seen here, that bicarbonate ion is taken out in exchange of the intake of the chloride ion into the RBC, this exchange between chloride and RBC in the blood vessel, okay, this exchange is known as Hamburger transportation, or also known as chloride shift mechanism, which is going to be taking place in the peripheral tissue, okay. And there is another thing that you have to keep it in your mind, is that as chloride is moving into the RBC, now of course it needs not to be told that with chloride there will also be the incoming of H2O, because whenever chloride moves in, it also takes H2O with it. So if chloride moves within the RBC, along with it H2O will also be moving inward, and this will swell the size of the RBC. So always you will find that whenever there is an incoming of the chloride, that time RBC size will be swollen up. So the hematocrit will be increased by 3%. How much will it be increased? It will be increased by 3% due to the incoming of the chloride, and this incoming of the chloride will be accompanied by H2O. Okay. Now I have this way, this transportation will go on, and this way the transportation will take place, and it will go to the venous blood. Let us just suppose this is venous blood, and let us erase this title because it's going to be creating a barrier in my picture. So let us just assume that this is our lung, or rather I should be saying this is our lung alveoli. Now from here on, the transportation of the carbon dioxide is taking place, and here is the place where the exchange between the carbon dioxide and oxygen will be taking place. Now here, of course, in the venous blood, this is venous blood, of course this is venous blood, and it is highly enriched in carbon dioxide. As it is highly enriched in carbon dioxide, then definitely partial pressure of carbon dioxide over here in this blood will be on high also. The measurements have shown us that the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the venous blood is approximately how much? 45 millimeter of the mercury, let us assume. And what really happens is that in the lung vessel, or in the lung, the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide is how much? It is approximately 40 millimeter of the mercury. Okay. Now due to this pressure difference, okay, by 5 millimeter of the mercury, now carbon dioxide will be shifting from the blood vessel into the lung alveoli, and it will be thrown out of our body into the outer atmospheric source. So I'm going to be drawing one picture of an RBC, because here RBCs are also going to be seen. So let us just suppose in this blood, this is the picture of the RBC, okay, and here this was my hemoglobin compound, which had globin chain in it, and this hemoglobin was bound with certain amount of the H plus to prevent the marked change of the pH, okay, and it reduced the number of the free H, okay, in order to prevent the denaturation of the RBC, okay. Now here, from here on, as the partial pressure within the blood, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, of course, the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide within the blood vessel is 45, and the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide within the lung is 40 millimeter of the mercury. So due to this pressure difference, now carbon dioxide will start shifting to the lung. That means from RBC it will go to the plasma first, and from plasma it will move into the lung alveoli. So what really happens is that in the RBC there will be a constant deficiency of carbon dioxide. So this carbon dioxide, as carbon dioxide from the RBC, it is moving into the lung alveoli, so there will be a constant decrease of the carbon dioxide. And if there is progressive decrease of the carbon dioxide, then definitely there will also be a progressive decrease found in the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. Now if that happens, then if partial pressure of the carbon dioxide drops from 45 millimeter of the mercury to a lower level in the pulmonary circulation, then definitely the diffusion from here to here will be stopped, because to maintain the diffusion of carbon dioxide from blood into the lung alveoli, we have to have a more number of the, or more amount of the partial pressure existing in the lung, or beg your pardon, existing in the blood vessel, Again, listen very carefully. Partial pressure of the carbon dioxide within the blood vessel is 45, but partial pressure of the carbon dioxide in the lung is 40. So, due to this pressure difference, carbon dioxide will be moving from the higher partial pressure direction to the lower partial pressure direction. So, carbon dioxide will be moving from the blood into the lung alveoli. But as carbon dioxide is moving constantly into the lung alveoli from the blood, so there will be a decrease in the amount of the carbon dioxide, and if carbon dioxide's amount decreases, that will also result in the reduction of the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. Now, to maintain this event, we have to have a constant supply of the carbon dioxide, isn't it? Now, how will there be a constant supply of the carbon dioxide? Our cell has already produced carbon dioxide. Now, within the RBC, we have to have a constant supply of the carbon dioxide, so that this pressure difference can be maintained to accomplish the diffusion of the carbon dioxide from the interior part of the blood vessel into the lung alveoli. Okay, now what we need to do? What should we do in order to maintain this flow of the carbon dioxide, so that the carbon dioxide can be diffused from the RBC to the lung alveoli constantly? Now, to do this thing, all the mechanisms that went on in the peripheral tissue should now be reversed. For example, in the peripheral tissue, we had a constant production of the bicarbonate, and we had constant dissociation of the bicarbonic acid, or carbonic acid rather I should be saying. Now, here in the lung, what really happens is that constantly there will be an association of bicarbonate and H plus to produce carbonic acid. Did you get me? Again, in the peripheral tissue, this carbonic acid was constantly undergoing dissociation in order to produce bicarbonate and H plus, and that H plus was taken up by the hemoglobin. That's a different story. And in the lung, to maintain the constant flow of the carbon dioxide, to maintain this partial pressure difference, so that the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide in the blood vessel always stands more than the partial pressure of the lung alveoli. So, to do that, we always have to have an association of bicarbonate with this H plus. So, what really happens, this hemoglobin is a very tricky molecule, I must say. Okay, this hemoglobin has seen that the carbon dioxide level is going downward. I have to have the constant flow of the carbon dioxide from the inward to outward. So, to do that, what it does is that it kicks out this hemoglobin molecule, or especially the globin part of the hemoglobin molecule. It kicks out the hydrogen molecules, so that this hydrogen molecule can bind to it bicarbonate ion, because you know that within the plasma there was high amount of the bicarbonate ion. So, now this bicarbonate ion moves into the RBC, and this hemoglobin molecule also throws or kicks out this H plus ions which were attached to this globin chain from the hemoglobin. These H plus ions were kicked out, and this H plus ion now binds with HCO3 to produce our beloved H2CO3. Okay, and again this reaction will be catalyzed by which enzyme? Carbonic anhydrase enzyme. So, hemoglobin has kicked out H plus, and now this H plus has undergone the association with bicarbonate, and now this bicarbonate in combination with H plus has produced H2CO3. Now this H2CO3 will be dissociating, and it will be generating H2O and CO2. Okay, this is how the supply of CO2 within the pulmonary capillary end is ensured. Now it will again grow up the level of the partial pressure difference of carbon dioxide. Okay, this is how this will keep the flow of carbon dioxide from inward to outward. Now this is an event which is taking place reversely, and let's not forget the location of this event. It is taking place in the lung level. Okay, it's not taking place in the peripheral tissue level. In the peripheral tissue level, we have this phenomenon, or we have this phenomena going on, But in the lung level, all these phenomena which we have already observed in the peripheral tissue now will have to be reversed to produce carbon dioxide, so that the carbon dioxide moves from the inward direction to the outward direction. Okay, and oxygen from the other end, as we know the lung alveoli is highly enriched in oxygen. Oxygen from the other end, that means oxygen from the lung alveoli will be moving into the RBC, and as this hemoglobin molecule has thrown H plus out of its own room, so it has got a free room to accommodate to the incoming of the to accommodate to the incoming of the oxygen. So oxygen binds with the hemoglobin now. Okay, this is the effect. This effect of binding of oxygen with hemoglobin allows hemoglobin to throw out H plus, and this throwing out of the H plus ensures the binding of bicarbonate ion with H plus, and it also ensures the production of the carbonic acid, and this production of the carbonic acid will also ensure the production of the carbon dioxide. Now this effect of oxygen to bind with hemoglobin, okay, allows the hemoglobin to kick out hydrogen. Now this effect of oxygen on hemoglobin molecule is known as Haldane effects. By the way, these events which were going on in the peripheral tissue level, it is known as Bohr's effect, and the events which actually went on in the lung alveoli in our board level, that is called Haldane's effect. By the way, this is a very confusing area. I'll be making a separate video on Bohr's effect and Haldane's effect. So don't be worried, don't panic. I'll be making a separate video on Bohr's effect and also Haldane effects. Basically, Haldane effects takes place in the lung level, whereas Bohr's effect takes place in the peripheral tissue level. Okay, but this is the mechanism through which the carbon dioxide is transported throughout our complete blood. Now, in the next video, we'll be talking about the Bohr's effect and Haldane's effect. But I hope that you have liked the video, and this lecture has cleared your concept about the transportation of the carbon dioxide. Now, if you have liked the video and if you have really comprehended about the transportation of the carbon dioxide, then make sure you remain subscribed to our channel and you keep on watching our videos. This is Joy signing off from today's video.